Hi guys, I'm Grainne and I am a special effects makeup artist. I've been lucky enough to work in TV and film, and today I'm going to share some of my tricks and tips with you so that you can recreate some looks as well. If you've ever wondered about emergency scarring or bruising or fantasy looks, today I'm going to share it all with you. So with a little bit of practice, some know-how and the right products, you'll be able to create these looks too. Okay, so we're going to start with what they call casualty effects. I'm going to do some bruising with an open wound and an old scar for you. You'll be amazed how quick and easy these are to do once you have a bit of know-how and the right products. You can work away and practice on yourself, or if you're lucky enough to have a model, you can work on them. But please make sure you patch test 48 hours beforehand to make sure that your model isn't sensitive or allergic to any of the products that you use. So today I'm very lucky that I have Trina here with me, and she is going to be my willing model for the day. I'm going to put on my mask, she's going to take hers off, and we're going to get started. We've done a cleanse on her skin. Always make sure the skin is makeup free. Make sure there's no cuts or scars on the model's face, because if you're applying some of these products, they're going to burn, they're going to hurt your model. Okay, so we're just going to have a quick look and make sure there's no oils where we're going to apply our products today. So I'm going to start with some bruising on Trina's face here, around the eye. So if we imagine that Trina fell, she banged this part of her face. This is the darkest part we're going to have here for the bruise. These color wheels, all the different makeup companies make them. They're amazing because they will supply the colors that you will need to create the bruise or the zombie effect or whatever it is that you want to create. So I'm going to start here with this light yellow color. These products are cream based, they're very heavy or pigmented, whatever way you want to put them, so a tiny, tiny bit goes a long way. So you can see there, don't be afraid to go in and blend. If your hands are sanitized, there's no problem using your fingers. You can apply with a brush, you can also use a sponge, so whatever works for you. A great place to start if you're not sure is to look at images online that other makeup artists have done. Okay, so like I said, this is the area that she banged. So I am going to go in, add some of this purple color here. Just stipple it on. I'm definitely going in under the eye here, because this would discolor. You can see there straight away, she's starting to look like she had a little tumble. You'll find if you go in and you're a bit too heavy-handed with this, they won't look natural. So just tiny, tiny bits at a time and blend them in. Another point of impact would be here. So if you feel where the bones are in your face, and if you fell, those are the parts that are going to be darker. And finally, we're going to add some of the black color. You'll see how the tiniest bit gives you that effect. Tiny bit. So for a fresh bruise, you'd also have some redness. So I'm going to add that in now. Again, using one of these amazing color wheels. Another good way to apply this is a stipple sponge, so you get a lovely effect from that. So now it can be left like that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a scar over it and show you how simple it is to create an open wound using the wax product that I have here. You'll just take a bit out, you'll rub it between your fingers to soften it, and then you can mold it onto the face. So I'm going to start by applying a bit of spirit gum. Okay, so decide where you want your scar, where it's going to be. I'm thinking here is the point of impact where I've made it darker. I'm going to apply a little bit here, our spirit gum. Now this will become tacky after a couple of seconds, but if you're impatient, and I am a little bit, you can just go like this with your finger and make it tacky. Okay, now taking a little bit of wax. This is great stuff, you can create all sorts with it. I'm going to mold it there between my hands, my finger, like that. And I'm going to apply it where I have my spirit gum. So we'll give it a second. Now you can use a spatula, you can use your fingers or the back of a brush, I find is very handy. For the wax as well, if you use a little bit of Vaseline on it, it'll stop it sticking. Okay, so I'm going to use this. I'm just going to push down the edges. Okay, so you can just gently, with your Vaseline, blend in those edges down into the skin. Okay, so when you're happy that you've blended those edges in, we can cut through the middle to create an open wound. You would normally use your palette knife. Okay, I'm going to be very careful here with this nail scissors, just to pull through right through the center, open it up. Okay, so once you have your wax stuck on, what you want to do is blend the edges. So you can do this with your fingers or with the back of a cotton bud. I'm going to do it with this little stick. But really anything you have at home that you think you could soften down the edges and blend, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to apply a small bit of Vaseline so it doesn't stick. And I'm just going to go in and gently push down those edges to blend them in. So when you're happy with your moulding, you will get your sealer product, which comes like this. Now this is one of the products that you do have to patch test for. Be careful as well that you're not using this too close to your model's eye. So just close your eye for me, trainer. Just going to seal this off. While that's drying, I'm going to go back in with my stipple sponge and I'm going to add in some more of the red around the edge. I'm going to use a finer brush this time. Going through where the open wound is, where the scar is, I'm going to add in some red here. I'm also going to add in a tiny bit of black, which is a good base for blood. So to seal the whole lot then, we're just going to give it a brush over with powder. If you don't have translucent powder or any sort of powder like this, a bit of talc is absolutely fine. It'll just take that shine off it as well. And now we're going to get to the fun stuff. So these special effects bloods come in all sorts of consistencies. You have the likes of this, which is stuck, which is, as you can see, lovely and gloopy. Be careful not to get them on your clothes. Some do wash out, others don't. So keep that in mind. With the gloopy blood, we'll have some fun with this. So we're going to put this into, I suppose, like a fresh scar or a fresh wound. So I'm going to apply a little bit of this on my palette here. Again, keep in mind that these products wouldn't be suitable for eyes. If you wanted to put something in the eye that looked like blood, there is a special product for that. Okay, so I'm just going to pick some up here and I'm going to apply it into this open wound here. Blend it in. Don't forget she fell off her bike, so should have a bit, yeah, exactly. Okay. And you can see that a little bit goes a long way. Now actually a great way to make blood for yourself at home, if you don't want to spend a fortune on them, is you get golden syrup, add in some red food colouring, icing sugar and cocoa powder and mix it all up together, and you can make it as thick or as liquid as you want, and it tastes delicious as well. Okay, So that's our coagulated blood, as they call it. Just for extra effect, I'm going to add in a little drop of our liquid blood as well. Just aware of you. Just a little drop just for extra effect. Okay. Are you okay there, Trina? How are you feeling? Sure. Okay, so that's our bruise with our open wound. Right, so the next thing I'm going to show you how to do is an old scar. You'll be absolutely amazed how quick this is to create. All you need is a couple of products. You'll need your red face paint, a brush, and some scarring plastic. This product can be used for a number of things. You could do cold sores, scars, and I'll show you later on how to use it for a fantasy look. So I'm going to start here by deciding where my old scar is on Trina. May as well emulate what's on the other side. I'm just going to draw down here with my red. Now if you don't have this sort of face paint at home, you can use a lipstick, you could use an eyeshadow, you could use anything in this sort of scar colour. It will work for you. Taking our plastic, I'm going to ask Trina just to put her finger here so we can put a slight stretch on the skin, and I'm going to run this down her face. So this has the consistency of a glue. We're just going to stretch, stretch, stretch until it dries. You okay, Trina?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it really is that quick and easy to do an old scar. If you felt there wasn't enough colour in it, you could go back with a bit more, just over the top. If it was older again, then it would have faded a bit, so you'd put a bit less colour in it. And just if you think it's a little bit too shiny for camera, a little bit of powder over the top. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to prepare Trina for our fantasy look by removing all of this. The easiest way at home, if you don't have any removal products, is to use something like coconut oil, olive oil, or baby oil, and just gently circular motions on your skin until the product melts off. Okay, see you soon. Right, so we're all set up to do our elven fantasy look on Trina. I'm going to show you a number of different applications today. We're going to start with some prosthetics. So for Trina, we have some horns and some elven ears that I'm going to apply and paint later. We're also going to do some sort of scarring or little bumps on her and paint them afterwards using our scar plastic. And I'm going to mold a new nose for Trina using some nose putty. You can also use your wax as well to do the nose if you don't have the nose putty. So to get started, like the last time, we made sure that her skin was cleansed and oil-free. When you have prosthetics like this, they're usually latex or foam, the first thing you need to do is size them on your model and make sure that they fit snugly. You can cut them if they're too big. So I'm just going to start here. I'm going to have a look at the ear on Trina. Place it over the top, so we could see that if I glued this point here, this would stick to her hair, and we definitely don't want that to happen. So I'm going to cut this piece off. With our horns, again, we're going to have a look at her and see how do they fit on her head. Which direction do we want them to be in? So think about the placement before you glue them down. Okay, I mean, you could think maybe that's more fantasy, more elven. This is a bit more devil. Not sure what that one is, maybe. But I think we'll go with something like this. Okay, so I'm looking again, and if I glue that down, it's very close to her hairline, so I'm going to have to trim some off the top. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, and I'm just using a little bit of my white face paint. So I'm going to look at her face, imagine where the middle is for myself, and I'm going to mark where I think her horns should go. Just a guide for yourself. You don't need to do it, it's just if you want to do it. So like I said, I'm just going to trim off the edges here that I don't need. A nail scissors is usually pretty good for this. Just trim around. So that ear now should fit a lot better on her. We'll be able to glue that in place and it won't stick to her hair. So that looks a lot better. The same with her horn. Gonna have a look. I'm going to need to trim this off here. Just take care on your prosthetics. They're normally made so that the edge is a lot thinner so you can blend them out. So if you cut too far in, you're cutting into a thick edge. They'll be harder to blend the edges. Okay, we're going to start with applying these guys. So what I'm going to use is some spirit gum. You can also use Pros-Aid, which is another kind of glue. I like to apply it here to the appliance or prosthetic. Plenty of it. Okay, you can see there it starts to go tacky when it's like this. That's the perfect time then to apply it to the skin. There's a lot of fun prosthetics out there on the market that you don't have to spend a fortune on. Even some of the joke shops do them as well, so have a look. So place it on and just push it down at the edges. Now, to blend the edges, you could use something like acetone or Pros-Aid to blend it. If you don't have either of those, you can use a little bit of latex. It comes like this, a liquid latex to blend in the edges. I'm just going to pour a bit there onto my palette using my sponge. So if you do nice thin layers, let them dry and imagine that you're keeping the very outside circle as thin as possible, and then it can get thicker as it comes in. Okay, so I want to protect her hair while I'm sticking on her ear tip. I'm going to use a little cotton pad just to cover up her hair here. So we're making sure we're not gluing any of it into the piece. This time I'm going to use my spirit gum directly on her ear rather than on the appliance, so I have more control. A little bit of spirit gum across the top of her ear and down here, where we know the appliance is going to sit. Get our appliance, putting it over the tip of her ear, and just let it sit snugly on there. It'll dry in seconds. Okay, now I can see where I'll need another little bit of spirit gum. In under here. So as you can see here, the edges on these ear tips are lovely and fine, so they've blended in really nicely into her own ear. So we'll do the second one, and then we're going to be ready to do some scarification and some little bumps on her face. So now I'm going to add some skin forms using my scar plastic. Like I said before, you can use this for scarring, for cold sores, and I'm going to use it just for little bumps on her skin. So in we go. It's very simple to use. Squeeze it out, it'll stick to the skin, whatever sort of shapes you want. I'm going to go with some bumps. So I've given everything a little while to dry, so just make sure, give it a touch and make sure it's touch dry. And now I'm going to apply the fun part, which is the colour. I'm starting with an all over base of white. This again is a clown paint. It's an oil-based product, and I'm just going to apply it on with a stipple brush. You could also do this with a sponge, just dab it on, or if you had an air gun, you could spray paint it as well. So I'm just going to get started on this, and I'll be back to you in a minute. I use a slightly smaller brush on her ears. So I suppose think about the area that you're working on. Big area, big brush, smaller area, smaller brush. So just before I apply the paint to Trina's nose, I've decided I'm going to extend it slightly just to change the shape of it and make it more pixie or elven-like. So what I'm going to use is a nose putty, which is sort of similar to your wax product. You can use your wax also. This is your wax, you can use this as well. What you do is you'll just soften it, work it a little bit between your fingers and soften the product so that you're able to mold it onto her nose. So the softer it is, the easier it'll be able to work with it, be able to mold it. Again, use whatever little tools you find work for you. End your brush, a Q-tip, anything like that will work. Okay, so I spent a bit of time forming her nose with the nose putty. You can also use your wax, as I said. The wax is probably a lot easier to work with, so whichever you prefer. It's dried solid now, so I'm ready to go in with my white clown paint and to finish off and to paint in her nose. This time I'm using a slightly smaller brush. I'm just going to dab it on. I went in all over her shoulders and her face to give it a second coat of this. And as you can see, I went slightly up into the hairline as well. So now I'm going to style Trina's hair. So I've decided to give it a bit of height. I'm going to backcomb it using one of these combs. And later on, I'm going to spray paint into it just to sort of join what's going on with her skin into her hair. So backcombing is very simple. Just lift the hair up, you can bring it forward a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because I want lots of height. Pick up another section. Okay, and onto that I'm just going to put a little bit of hairspray. So you can decide how you want to style the hair. I suppose try and think outside of the box. What would we normally see, and what could be a little bit different, since she is a little elf, a fantasy creature. Okay, so I'm just going to spray some of this silver spray into Trina's hair. There's loads of these on the market. They come in all different colours and they're really fun to use. They'll wash straight out afterwards, so you can go a bit mad with these. Just simply spray it in like this. It'll build up the colour. You can blend in different colours as well if you want to. This can also be used on the skin, so if you wanted to do some shading, which I do, I'm just going to do a little bit here on her neck, collarbone. So you're getting that spray paint effect. Now any of these looks can also be done with your water-based face paints. You know, the normal ones you'd have like Snazzaroo or any of those that you'd use for Halloween. You can do all of these looks with them, and you can put the Snazzaroo in your hair as well. Okay. So I'm looking here and I just want to go back over a little bit of white. So do it before it dries. You can take out the bits you don't want, blend them in, soften them a bit. Now for this part with the colouring, you can use either the cream base that you're using already, or if you've used your water-based, you can put anything over it, and you can put eyeshadows over this as well. Or any other like lipsticks, any other products that you'd have, any other makeup products. So I want to add some colour in here, and I also want to add some definition back to her face. So I'm going to start with a nice big fluffy brush, and I'm going to use some eyeshadow just to contour her face and put some shape back in. So for that, I'm just going to use my powder palette, which is actually a blusher palette. You can use eyeshadows or blushers, doesn't matter. So think about light and dark when you're doing this, and natural shadows that you'd see on someone's face and body. If you just left it all white, it would look very flat. This is adding some dimension. Now I'm going to go in with a slightly smaller brush. And I'm going to add some shape back in here to her eyes. And down her nose. You can see the difference that it makes there. Okay, so that's added a bit of dimension back to your face. Now I'm going to have some fun with some colour. So just going around her hairline, and I'm dragging the colour into her hair a little bit. Don't forget those ears that you did as well. They can do with a little bit of shading just to bring them to life. If you're not sure about where to shade or to leave light, just look at somebody else's face and you'll see the natural shadows that are there and where the light hits. So always looking at one side and the other as well to make sure that you're doing the same thing. So this is the really fun part, and you can be as creative as you want. The colours you put on, entirely up to you where you put them. You know, you can think outside the box, just have some fun with it. You can take anywhere from half an hour to 3 hours, depending on how much work you want to put into it. That's up to you, you're the makeup artist. So do whatever you want, but the most important thing is just have some fun with it. Like I said, you can use your eyeshadows. If you just want to use regular face paint, you can use that too. Now I've got some silver here, which I want to add on to the horns and a few other places on her face. So I've decided to add the silver onto the little 3D bits that I did on her face. You could also add things like glitter or any kind of sparkles or anything like that that you had. Just be careful if you're using glitter that it is for the face and you don't get it anywhere near the eyes. If you want to make something even more 3D, put in some shadows underneath. You can make it pop out more for you. Okay, so that's my pixie look done on Trina. I hope you've learned a few things today and it was fun for you all. You know, just get out there, have fun with it, do a bit of practice and enjoy it. Good luck with your special effects, guys. Thanks for watching.